The house on the quiet street in Connecticut was a facade. Inside, for Ethan Vance, it was a place of constant, corrosive inequality. My parents, Martha and Robert Vance, perfected the art of blatant favoritism, leaving me, the eldest of three, a perpetual outsider. My younger brothers, Robert Jr. and Thomas, were the suns around which the household revolved, basking in a warmth and generosity I was never allowed to feel. We were five, a typical American family by head count, but the dynamic was anything but. From my earliest memories, the tilt was severe. Bobby, charming and reckless, was shielded from consequences. Thomas, quieter but equally indulged, benefited from the spillover. I was the reliable one, the responsible one, burdened with duties they never shared. My achievements met with indifference while theirs, however minor, warranted celebration. My straight A's were ignored. Bobby's mediocre grades earned him tutors and excuses. My part-time job earnings, saved for college, vanished into my father's opaque needs, never to be seen again, while my brothers received cars and endless allowances. The implicit message was clear. My value was secondary, tied to utility, fundamentally less than my brothers in their eyes. I learned to hide the hurt, to channel my energy into quiet excellence, building a core of resilience born of neglect. The house hummed with small indignities. Chores were my domain. Leisure was theirs. My opinions were dismissed. Theirs were solicited. Any challenge to the unequal treatment, any expression of hurt, was deflected with accusations of jealousy or told I was being dramatic. They learned to use this, Bobby and Thomas, twisting truths, leveraging my parents' bias to their advantage in petty squabbles. The conflict escalated not just in frequency, but in weight. When Bobby, irresponsible as ever, got into trouble, the focus was on his stress, never his accountability. My attempts to point out the unfairness were met with cold stares. My mother's words, delivered with a dismissive wave, landed like blows. They need different things, she'd say, as if that explained their blatant favoritism. My father's silence was an equally heavy endorsement. It was in these moments that the familial bond frayed and snapped. The longing for acceptance died, replaced by a steely resolve. If love and fairness wouldn't be given, I would earn something they valued far more: power and control. The true crisis unfolded during my final year of college. I had funded my entire education through scholarships, loans, and relentless work, while my parents poured money into my brother's bottomless pits of failed schemes and extravagant living. I was on the cusp of graduating with honors and had secured a job in New York City. Then came the call. My father had suffered a severe heart attack. The fear was real, but even facing mortality, the family's focus remained fixed on Bobby and Thomas, ensuring they were coping, their distress paramount. I managed logistics from afar, navigating finals while trying to be the reliable one yet again. But the health crisis was merely the prelude to the financial one. Stepping in to help my overwhelmed mother manage my father's affairs, I uncovered the truth. Crippling debt, much of it from funding my brother's irresponsible spending, not business. And then, the ultimate betrayal, a substantial trust fund, established years ago for the children's education, largely drained by Bobby and Thomas for their various whims, while I funded my entire university degree myself. My parents, fully aware, had allowed it, believing I was capable of managing myself, using a clause meant for genuine need to justify funding my brother's indulgence. The discovery wasn't just painful, it was an amputation of any lingering hope. It wasn't passive neglect. It was active, calculated theft of my future resources, sanctioned by the people who were supposed to protect me. I confronted my mother with the evidence. Her defense was chilling in its casual cruelty. The boys needed it. You've always been independent, Ethan. We knew you could manage. My father said nothing. My brothers dismissed it as ancient history, their entitlement unshaken. In that moment, the illusion of family dissolved entirely. The dam of suppressed emotion didn't burst with grief, but with the cold clarity of absolute detachment. There was nothing left to salvage. I didn't plead or rage. I simply gathered the proof of their betrayal and walked away from that house, that life, that toxic dynamic. I moved to New York City not just for a job, but to build a life utterly independent of them, fueled by the cold fire of their injustice. Independence became my weapon, success my shield. They had taught me the value of ruthlessness and resources. I would apply those lessons back to them. I immersed myself in work, driven by a singular purpose. Each success wasn't just a career milestone, it was a brick in the fortress I was building, a silent act of defiance against the limitations they had tried to impose. I watched from a distance as my brothers continued their pattern of entitlement and failure, draining my parents' remaining resources. The infrequent, strained contact through relatives confirmed the deepening financial hole they were digging. I saved, I invested, I learned the intricate dance of finance and law. Their casual cruelty had gifted me a brutal education in leverage and consequence. Years passed. My father's health deteriorated further. The family home, the physical manifestation of their skewed priorities, became a millstone of debt. Creditors circled, lawsuits loomed. My brothers, predictably, panicked. Stripped of their safety net, they turned to the independent one they had dismissed for so long. They called, desperate, seeking my help to navigate the financial wreckage they had created. This was it, the moment years in the making. I agreed, but as a professional, not a son. I demanded full transparency, complete control. Blinded by desperation and their lingering underestimation of me, they agreed. My mother, frail and overwhelmed, clung to the hope of rescue. I began the meticulous, dispassionate work of unraveling their financial mess. It wasn't about saving them. It was about orchestrating their fall. I used my expertise not to find solutions for them, but to strategically position myself, acquiring key debts, understanding the legal vulnerabilities of the estate. I didn't operate in the shadows. Every step was legal, every action meticulously documented. I prioritized creditors not for my family's benefit, but to ensure the maximum damage. The house, their symbol of status and comfort, was the primary target. I maneuvered through the complex web of mortgages and liens, ensuring I held the critical leverage. Then I executed the plan. I didn't foreclose in secret. I initiated proceedings that forced a public auction of the family home. The timing was precise, calculated to maximize their distress and minimize any remaining value. The sale, handled according to the brutal logic of the market and the law, left them with nothing after debts were settled. No inheritance for the favored sons. No security for the parents who had sacrificed my future for their indulgence. The trust fund, long gone, served as a bitter reminder of the resources they had squandered. Their reactions were predictable. Rage from my brothers, tears and accusations of heartlessness from my mother. I met their emotional storm with cold, unyielding fact. I hadn't broken the law. I had simply applied the rules of the world they inhabited, using the tools they had denied me for so long. Their entitlement had led them to believe they were exempt from consequence. I simply ensured they weren't. The house was gone. Their comfortable lives, built on a foundation of unfairness and debt, collapsed. My brothers, forced into genuine self-reliance, floundered. My mother was left to face the consequences of her choices in a small rented apartment. I never saw them again. I didn't need to. Their fate was sealed, a direct, irreversible outcome of their actions. They had sought independence for me by cutting me off. Now they had it thrust upon them, stripped of the safety nets they had always taken for granted. My revenge wasn't fueled by fleeting anger, but by a deep, enduring need for justice. I had taken the lessons they taught me, the value of power, the indifference of the system, the consequences of debt, and applied them with devastating precision. I was independent, successful, and I had ensured the scales were balanced, leaving behind not just wreckage, but a stark, undeniable truth. Actions have consequences, and the price of their favoritism was the ruin of everything they held dear.